You know, there's something about family picnics. They're supposed to be this perfect slice of Americana, right? Burgers on the grill, dad tossing a football with his son, mom cutting up watermelon. But sometimes, if you look close enough, you can see the cracks. For Emily, the cracks had been there so long they felt like part of the design. It was the annual Henderson family picnic, Labor Day weekend. The whole cul-de-sac was there, and Ethan was holding court by the grill like he always did. He had that way about him, you know the type. Quarterback smile, easy laugh, and a story for every occasion. He was telling the guys about the big game last Friday, how he threw that Hail Mary pass with 3 seconds left on the clock. And I'm telling you, Coach looked at me and said, "Henderson, you've got ice in your veins." I just said, "Nah, Coach. Just trust." The men laughed. The women smiled. My father, Mike, clapped him on the shoulder with a hand calloused from 30 years of swinging a hammer. "That's my boy," he said. Nobody noticed Emily sitting alone at the picnic table, her sketchbook open to a half-finished drawing of a sparrow with a bent wing. She'd found it that morning by the bird feeder. It kept trying to fly, kept falling. She understood that bird. She'd been feeling off all day. Not the usual tiredness she'd learned to ignore, the one her mom called drama. This was different. The edges of her vision were going gray, like someone was slowly turning down the brightness on the world. She took a sip of lemonade, but it didn't help. Her hands felt cold, even in the afternoon sun. "Hey, Em." Ethan's voice cut across the yard. "You gonna sit there doodling all day? Come on, we need someone to shag balls for the kids." She looked up. Her twin brother, her identical twin, everyone always said, though she'd never really seen it herself, was grinning at her. To everyone else, that grin was pure sunshine. To Emily, it was the look of someone who knew he'd already won before the game even started. "I'm not feeling great, Ethan. Maybe later." He rolled his eyes, and it was a performance. He made sure everyone saw it. "Right. Not feeling great. Like last week when you didn't want to help clean the garage? Or the week before that, when we had Aunt Carol's thing? That was different, it's always different, isn't it?" He turned to the neighbors, his hands spread wide. "Look, I love my sister, but you guys know how it is. She's got a new thing every week. Mom says it's probably just stress." My mother, Linda, walked over with a tray of deviled eggs. She'd been a nurse for 20 years. She should have known better. But when she looked at Emily, her eyes held the same tired expression she used on patients who complained too much. Honey, we talked about this. You need to push through sometimes. Your father and I both work hard, your brother's got practice every day, and we all manage. Mind over matter. Mind over matter." Emily had heard that phrase so many times she wanted to scream. But she didn't. She'd learned a long time ago that screaming didn't help. It just made her the crazy one. "I'll try," she said quietly. Ethan winked at her. "Atta girl." She stood up, and the world tilted. It was like someone pulled the plug on everything. Her vision went black at the edges and then swallowed itself whole. She heard someone gasp, maybe it was her, and then she was falling, and the grass was coming up to meet her, and somewhere far away she heard her mother's voice, but it wasn't worried, it was annoyed. "Oh, for heaven's sake. Emily. Emily." Then nothing. The hospital room was too bright. You know that kind of light? The fluorescent kind that makes everyone look washed out and guilty, like you're already at your own funeral. Emily woke up to the sound of her brother's voice. "I'm telling you, she's been pulling stuff like this forever." Ethan was in the hallway, talking to someone, probably one of the nurses who knew Mom. "It's always something. Headaches, stomachaches, dizzy spells. My mom's a nurse, okay? She knows when something's really wrong. She says Emily just, I don't know, needs attention or something." Emily closed her eyes again. She could feel the thin hospital blanket scratchy against her arms, the plastic bracelet tight on her wrist. She'd been here before. Not this exact room, but this exact situation. Ethan explaining her away. Mom nodding along. Dad looking uncomfortable and checking his watch, silently furious that this was keeping him from the game. It's not her fault, Ethan continued, his voice dropping into fake sympathy. She's just sensitive. You know how some people are. They feel a little off and they think they're dying. I try to help her, but you can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. Emily wanted to laugh. She wanted to cry. She wanted to sit up and scream that she'd been feeling this way since they were 14, that she'd kept a journal of every symptom, every dizzy spell, every time her heart beat too fast or too slow or just felt wrong. But who would believe her? Ethan was the golden boy. Ethan was the one who shook hands with the mayor at the homecoming game. Emily was just Emily. The difficult one. The dramatic one. The twin who got all the bad genes and none of the charm. She heard footsteps. Her mother's voice, clipped and professional, the nurse voice, not the mom voice. Any change? Not really, Linda. That was another nurse. Janet, Emily thought. They went to the same church. Dr. Patel wants to run a few more tests. He's not entirely convinced it's just dehydration. I'm sure it's nothing serious. Her mother's voice was firm. I know my daughter. She's had episodes like this before. Honestly, I think the heat just got to her. Mom. Emily tried to speak, but her voice came out as a croak. Both nurses turned. Her mother came to the bedside, and for a moment, just a moment, Emily saw something soft in her eyes. But then it was gone, replaced by that familiar exasperation. Well, you're awake. You gave us quite a scare. She didn't sound relieved. She sounded inconvenienced. Your father had to leave the picnic early. You know how much he was looking forward to seeing the guys. I'm sorry, Emily whispered. Because that's what she always said. Ethan appeared in the doorway. He'd put on his concerned face, the one that looked so good in family photos. Hey, Em. You okay? I told you, you gotta drink more water. Dehydration's no joke, especially when you're just sitting around all day. Just sitting around. While he was the star quarterback. While he was the one who mattered. I was drawing, she said. Yeah, well. He shrugged. Maybe you should try actually doing something active for once. Get the blood pumping. You can't just hide in your room with your little art projects and expect to feel good, you know? Their mother nodded, and Emily saw it happen in real time. Ethan said it, and Mom agreed. It was like a reflex. Like breathing. A doctor appeared behind Ethan. He was older, maybe 50s, with kind but sharp eyes that seemed to see everything at once. Dr. Patel, his badge said. Neurology. Miss Henderson. I'm glad you're awake. I have a few questions, if you're feeling up to it. Ethan stepped aside, but he didn't leave. He leaned against the doorframe with his arms crossed, like he was waiting for a show. Dr. Patel pulled up a chair and sat down. He didn't look at Ethan. He didn't look at Linda. He looked at Emily. How long have you been experiencing symptoms? Emily blinked. No one had ever asked her that. Not directly. Not like they believed there was something to ask about. Years, she said. Since I was 14, I think. Maybe earlier. Years, Dr. Patel repeated. He made a note. And what kind of symptoms? Dizziness. Fatigue. Sometimes my heart feels like it's skipping beats. Sometimes I get these episodes. She looked at her hands. Like today. Episodes, Ethan snorted from the doorway. Come on, Em. You fainted. It happens. You're not the first person to pass out at a picnic. Dr. Patel turned and looked at him. It wasn't an angry look. It was just, steady. And you are? Ethan. Her brother. Her twin. I see. Dr. Patel turned back to Emily. Has anyone in your family ever had genetic testing done? Emily frowned. I don't think so. Why? Her mother stepped forward. Doctor, I really think we're making too much of this. I'm a nurse, I've seen 1,000 cases of, I'm sure you have. Dr. Patel's voice was calm but final. But I'd like to run a comprehensive metabolic panel. And a genetic screen. With your permission. Linda's face tightened. A genetic screen? That seems a little extreme for a fainting spell. Humor me. Something passed between them. Something Emily couldn't quite read. Her mother looked suddenly older, and scared in a way that had nothing to do with Emily fainting at a picnic. Fine, Linda said tightly. Run your tests. The tests took 2 hours. 2 hours of sitting in that too-bright room, listening to Ethan complain about missing practice and her father call twice to ask when they could leave. 2 hours of her mother pacing the hallway like a caged animal, her phone clutched in her hand. When Dr. Patel finally came back, the hallway went quiet. He was holding a folder. Just a regular manila folder, the kind you'd see in any office. But he was holding it like it weighed 100 pounds. Mrs. Henderson, he said. I'd like to go over these results with you. Privately. Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of my kids. Linda's chin went up. The stubborn Henderson chin, Emily called it. She had it too, but on her it just looked defiant instead of confident. Dr. Patel hesitated. Then he opened the folder. Emily's metabolic panel revealed something unexpected. She has a rare genetic metabolic disorder. Medium-chain acyl-CoA dehydrogenase deficiency. MCAD. The words meant nothing to Emily. But her mother's face went white. That's... Linda started. That's a newborn screening condition. We would have known. Not always, Dr. Patel said. Some variants don't show up on standard screens. But the more pressing question, he looked at Ethan, then back at the folder, is that this particular variant is almost always found in fraternal twins, not identical. The genetic markers simply don't align with monozygotic development. Ethan straightened up. What? What does that mean? It means, Dr. Patel said slowly, that contrary to what you've all believed for 18 years, you and your sister are not identical twins. The hallway froze. You could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights. The distant beep of a heart monitor. The sound of Linda's sharp intake of breath. And Ethan, who always had something to say, who could talk his way out of anything, just stood there with his mouth open, the golden boy finally silenced by a piece of paper in a manila folder. Emily looked at her mother. Her mother wouldn't look back. And that's when she knew. It wasn't just the diagnosis that had just shattered her world. It was the look on her mother's face. Guilty. Cornered. Like someone with a secret they'd been keeping for 18 years. Dr. Patel cleared his throat. Mrs. Henderson, perhaps we should have that private conversation now. Linda nodded, her lips pressed into a thin white line. She followed him down the hall, leaving Emily and Ethan standing on opposite sides of a doorway that had suddenly become a canyon. Ethan looked at her. For the first time in their lives, he didn't have a speech ready. What the hell, he said, just happened? Emily didn't answer. She was watching her mother's retreating back, and she was thinking about all those years. All those symptoms. All those times she'd been called dramatic, difficult, a liar. And now, in a hospital hallway on Labor Day, the truth was finally crawling out of the woodwork. It wasn't over. Something told her it was just getting started. Dr. Patel's office smelled like rubbing alcohol and old coffee. Linda Henderson sat in the patient chair, the one with the worn armrests, and she looked like a woman who'd just been told her house was on fire from the inside. Dr. Patel closed the door. The click was soft, but it might as well have been a gunshot. Mrs. Henderson, he said, sitting down across from her. You're a nurse. You understand medical terminology. So I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Linda's hands were clasped so tight in her lap that her knuckles looked like white marble. The genetic panel we ran on Emily came back positive from CAD. Medium-chain acyl-CoA dehydrogenase deficiency. Linda's eyes closed. For a moment, she didn't breathe. You know what that means? Dr. Patel asked, his voice calm as still water. I know, she whispered. I've known about CAD since nursing school. It's rare. It's genetic. Both parents have to be carriers. Correct. And here's the interesting part. Dr. Patel flipped open the folder on his desk. When we ran the full panel to identify mutations, we also ran a zygosity test. Standard procedure when we have twins and a genetic condition. We needed to know if Ethan should be tested too. Linda's face went from white to gray. The results are clear, Dr. Patel said. Emily and Ethan are dizygotic. Fraternal twins. They share no more DNA than any other siblings. They are not identical. The word hung in the air. Not. I understand from Emily's chart that the family has always believed they were identical twins. Linda didn't answer. She was staring at the wall behind Dr. Patel's head, at a framed diploma from Johns Hopkins, at anything except his eyes. Dr. Patel leaned forward slightly. Mrs. Henderson, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've seen families react to difficult news in 1,000 different ways. But your reaction is unusual. You're not surprised. A tear slid down Linda's cheek. She wiped it away fast, like swatting a fly. Mrs. Henderson? I knew. The words came out cracked and dry, like old paint peeling off a wall. Excuse me? She finally looked at him. Her eyes were red-rimmed and exhausted. I knew they weren't identical. I've known since I was 6 months pregnant. Dr. Patel set down his pen. He didn't speak. He just waited. You have to understand, Linda said, her voice picking up speed now, like a car rolling downhill with no brakes. When I was pregnant, I had complications. Bleeding. They did an early ultrasound and found something called twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. One baby was getting more blood flow than the other. It's dangerous. They had to monitor me constantly. She paused, swallowing hard. The specialist explained that TTTS only happens with fraternal twins who share a placenta. Identical twins can get it too, but the type I had, it meant they were definitely fraternal. 2 separate eggs. 2 separate sperm. They just happened to implant at the same time. Did you tell your husband? Linda shook her head. Mike was so excited about having twins. Identical twins. You know how men are. They love the idea. 2 little matching football players, he used to say. And when they were born, they looked so much alike. Everyone said they were identical. Even the nurses. And I never corrected anyone. Dr. Patel's expression didn't change, but something in the room shifted. The temperature dropped about 10 degrees. So for 18 years, he said slowly, you allowed your daughter to be accused of faking symptoms that were actually caused by a genetic disorder. A disorder you, as a medical professional, could have identified if you'd taken her complaints seriously. Linda flinched like he'd slapped her. And all because you wanted to maintain the fiction that your twins were identical? It wasn't just that. Linda's voice was barely a whisper now. Ethan was always so easy. From the day he was born, he slept through the night, he smiled at everyone, he was the quarterback, the homecoming king, the boy every father wants. And Emily. She stopped. The tears were flowing freely now. Emily was hard. She cried all the time as a baby. She was always tired, always sick, always complaining about something. Every time I took her to the doctor, the tests came back normal. I thought. I really thought she was just being dramatic. Like her grandmother. My mother-in-law was always imagining illnesses. And it never occurred to you, Dr. Patel said, his voice carrying the faintest edge now, that maybe the tests were coming back normal because you weren't ordering the right tests? Linda didn't answer. She couldn't. Meanwhile, in the hallway, Emily was still standing outside the hospital room. Ethan had moved. He was pacing now, back and forth, like a caged animal at the zoo. "This is bullshit," he said, running his hand through his perfectly styled hair. "Some lab tech probably mixed up the samples. It happens. I saw it on a documentary." Emily leaned against the wall. She felt steadier now. For the first time in years, her body wasn't the enemy. It was the evidence. "They didn't mix up anything, Ethan." "How do you know?" "You're not a doctor." "No, but Dr. Patel is. And he doesn't make mistakes." Ethan stopped pacing. He turned to face her, and for just a second, Emily saw something she'd never seen in her brother's eyes before. Fear. Not fear for her. Not concern about her health. Pure, selfish, "What does this mean for me?" fear. "If we're not identical," he said, his voice dropping low, "then this whole thing about you being sick, it means you've got something I don't have. That's generally how genetics works, yeah. Don't be a smartass, Em. I'm serious. If you've got some disease, and I don't have it, then people are going to. What? Pay attention to me? Feel sorry for me?" The words came out sharper than Emily intended. She watched Ethan's jaw tighten. He wasn't used to her talking back. He wasn't used to her talking at all, really. For 18 years, their family dynamic had been set in stone. Ethan was the sun, and everyone else was just planets in his orbit. "That's not what I meant," he said. "It's exactly what you meant. It's what you've always meant. Every time I said I didn't feel good, every time I was too tired to go to practice or too weak to help Dad with the yard work, you were right there. She's faking it, Mom. She's just lazy. She just wants attention. I was trying to help." "Help who? Me? Or yourself?" Ethan's face went red. In the distance, a nurse's pager beeped. Somewhere, a baby was crying. Life was going on all around them, completely indifferent to the earthquake happening in this hallway. "You don't get it," Ethan said. "You never have. Being the oldest son in this family, there's pressure, okay? Dad expects things. The team expects things. Everyone in this godforsaken town expects Ethan Henderson to be perfect. And you, with all your problems, you were always threatening to mess that up." Emily blinked. "My problems were threatening to mess you up? Every time Mom and Dad had to take you to another specialist, every time they had to miss one of my games because you were having an episode, it made me look bad." People started talking. "Oh, the Hendersons are having family troubles." Like I was part of some broken home. Emily felt something cold settle in her chest. Not anger. Not sadness. Clarity. "So that's why you were always so quick to call me a liar. Because if I was just dramatic, if I was just faking it, then you were still the perfect son from the perfect family." Ethan didn't deny it. He just stood there, breathing hard, like he'd just run 100 yards for a touchdown nobody was cheering for. Down the hall, the door to Dr. Patel's office opened. Linda walked out first, her face blotchy and swollen. Dr. Patel followed, carrying a manila folder. Mike Henderson was coming up the corridor behind them, his work boots squeaking on the polished floor. He must have driven straight from the construction site. There was sawdust on his jeans. "What the hell is going on?" Mike's voice boomed through the hallway. "I get a call saying my daughter collapsed at a picnic, and now you people are telling me there's some kind of genetic thing?" Dr. Patel looked at Linda. Linda looked at the floor. Emily looked at her father, this big, loud man who'd always made her feel small, and she realized something, he didn't know either. Their mother had been keeping secrets from everyone. Mr. Henderson, Dr. Patel said, your daughter has a rare metabolic disorder called MCAD. It's treatable, now that we've diagnosed it, but it requires lifelong management. And the genetic testing has revealed something else. Emily and Ethan are not identical twins. They're fraternal. Mike's face went blank. That can't be right. They're twins. They look alike. They look alike because they're siblings born at the same time, Dr. Patel said. But genetically, they're no more similar than any brother and sister. And your wife has just informed me that she's known this since before they were born. The silence that followed was the loudest thing Emily had ever heard. Mike turned to Linda. Linda was crying again, her shoulders shaking. Linda? Tell me he's lying. I can't, she said. I wanted to tell you. I was going to. But then the boys in your family are always so proud of their twins, and Ethan was so perfect, and I thought it didn't matter. I thought it was just a medical detail. Just a medical detail? Emily stepped forward. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the hallway like a scalpel. You let Ethan convince everyone I was crazy. You let Dad call me a drama queen at every family dinner. You let my teachers think I was making excuses. And all along, you knew. You knew there was a reason I was different. I didn't know about them, Cad, Linda said desperately. I swear to God, Emily, I didn't know you were actually sick. I thought. You thought I was just difficult. You thought I was inconvenient. You thought I was ruining your perfect family portrait. Mike put his hand on the wall, like he needed something solid to hold on to. This is a lot to process. We need to sit down as a family and talk about this calmly. No, Dad. Emily looked at him. We don't. We've been sitting down as a family for 18 years, and every single time, I was the one who got told to stop causing trouble. I'm done sitting down. She turned to Dr. Patel. What do I need to do? For them, Cad? We'll start you on a treatment plan immediately. Dietary changes, medication, regular monitoring. It's manageable. You'll be able to live a normal life. A normal life. The words felt foreign, like a language she'd never learned. Emily nodded. She looked at her family one more time. Ethan, red-faced and silent. Linda, crying. Mike, utterly lost. Then she turned and walked down the hallway, toward the exit, toward the parking lot where the September sun was still shining on the cars. Emily. Linda called after her. Where are you going? Emily didn't stop. She pulled out her phone and called the one person who'd always believed her, her best friend, Sarah. 6 rings, then a pickup. Em? What's wrong? I need a ride. And a place to stay for a while. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Emily hung up. She pushed through the hospital doors and stood on the sidewalk, breathing in the warm air. Behind her, somewhere inside the building, her family was falling apart. 18 years of lies, coming undone in a single afternoon. And for the first time in her life, Emily Henderson felt free. Emily stood on the hospital sidewalk, the September sun warm on her face, and for a long moment she didn't move. She just breathed. In and out. The kind of breathing you do when you've been holding your breath for 18 years and didn't even know it. A red Honda Civic pulled up to the curb. Sarah leaned across and pushed the passenger door open. Get in, Em. Emily climbed in and pulled the door shut. Sarah didn't say anything at first. She just pulled away from the hospital and drove toward the edge of town, toward the old farm roads where they used to park and talk about nothing for hours. About 5 minutes in, Sarah glanced over. You want to tell me what happened, or you want to sit there looking like you just walked out of a war zone? Both, I think. Emily's voice sounded strange to her own ears. Stronger. Not the whisper she'd used her whole life. They knew, Sarah. My mom knew since before we were born. We're not identical. We never were. Sarah's grip tightened on the steering wheel. Come again? Fraternal twins. Different eggs, different everything. But they told everyone we were identical because it was easier. Because Ethan was the golden boy and I was the complicated one. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. You know what my mom said? She said Ethan was so easy. And I wasn't. That's messed up. Yeah. It is. They drove in silence for a while, past cornfields and a couple of old barns. Sarah finally pulled onto a gravel road and parked near a small pond. She turned off the engine and faced Emily. So what now? Emily looked out at the water. I don't know. I've never had a now before. I've just had later, you know? Like, later I'll stand up for myself. Later I'll make them listen. But later never came. It's here now. Yeah. It is. Inside the hospital, Mike Henderson hadn't moved from the hallway. His big construction worker hands hung at his sides, useless. He kept staring at the spot where Emily had disappeared through the exit doors, like he expected her to walk back in and say it was all a misunderstanding. But she didn't walk back in. Linda was still crying. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep, somewhere you've been ignoring for years. Dr. Patel had excused himself, clipboard in hand, saying he'd give them some time. But before he left, he'd looked at Linda with those calm, unreadable eyes and said, "You're a nurse, Mrs. Henderson. You know the signs. You chose not to see them." That sentence hung in the air like smoke. Mike finally turned to his wife. Linda. Look at me. She lifted her face. Her makeup was ruined, her eyes red. You knew. His voice was quiet, which was worse than if he'd been yelling. You knew they weren't identical, and you never told me. You let me go around telling everyone my kids were two peas in a pod. You let me believe that boy when he said Emily was making things up. And you're a nurse. Mike, you're a nurse, he repeated, the word hitting like a hammer. You're supposed to notice when something's wrong. You're supposed to protect your kids. Both of them. Linda's voice cracked. Ethan was doing so well. He had football, he had friends, he was happy. And Emily was she was always so quiet. She never said anything. I thought if she was really sick, she'd complain more, she'd make us notice. But she didn't. And I just told myself she was fine. I told myself that. She didn't complain because we taught her not to, Mike said. Every time she tried, we shut her down. Every single time. He sat down heavily on one of the plastic chairs, the kind that's designed to be uncomfortable. I did the same thing. I'm not blameless. But God, Linda. 18 years. Ethan hadn't said a word since Emily left. He was leaning against the wall, his arms crossed, his quarterback shoulders hunched like he was trying to make himself smaller. The golden boy looked like a kid who'd just fumbled the ball on the 1-yard line with 10 seconds left in the championship game. He didn't know who he was anymore. For 18 years, he'd been the twin. The better twin. The one who knew everything about his sister because they were identical, because they shared the same DNA, because he could read her mind. That was his whole identity. And now it was gone. A lab report had taken it away. Worse than gone, it had been a lie all along. His dad looked at him. You got anything to say, son? Ethan's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time in his life, he didn't have a ready answer. No football metaphor, no confident dismissal. Just silence. All those times, Mike continued, all those times you told us Emily was faking, that she just wanted attention. What was that about? Ethan's eyes glistened. I don't know. You do know. I don't, he stopped. Swallowed. I didn't want her to take anything from me. Take what? Everything. The word came out strangled. You guys, the team, the town, all of it. I was supposed to be the one. The star. And she was just there. Always there. Ruining the picture. Mike stared at his son like he was seeing him for the first time. She's your sister. She wasn't taking anything. She was just trying to exist. Ethan slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor, his head in his hands. The tears came then, ugly and messy. I know. I know that now. But I didn't want to see it. I just wanted to be the only one who mattered. Linda reached out toward him, instinct pushing her to comfort her son. But Mike held up his hand. Don't. Not yet. He turned back to Linda. We've been comforting the wrong kid for 18 years. Let him sit with it for a while. At Sarah's apartment, a small one-bedroom above a garage on Maple Street, Emily sat on the couch with a cup of tea. She hadn't drunk much of it. She was too busy talking. She told Sarah everything. The stomachaches that started in 5th grade. The joint pain that made gym class a nightmare. The migraines that sent her to the nurse's office so often the nurse stopped believing her too. And then the fainting spells, the ones Ethan called drama queen moments at the dinner table. Sarah listened. She didn't interrupt, didn't try to fix anything. She just listened, the way she'd always listened when Emily called her late at night, whispering so her family wouldn't hear. So this metabolic thing, Sarah said when Emily finally paused. What does it mean? Can they treat it? Dr. Patel said there's a management plan. Diet changes, some medications. It won't go away, but it won't kill me either. It's just something I have to live with. Emily smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. But the best part? I'm not crazy. I'm not making it up. I'm not attention-seeking. I'm just sick. And that's weirdly the best news I've ever gotten. That's not weird at all. Sarah squeezed her hand. You've been told for years that you're lying. Having proof you're not? That's huge. Emily's phone buzzed. She looked down. A text from her mom, please come back. We need to talk. Then another, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I failed you. Then a third, from her dad, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Can we talk? Emily stared at the screen. 6 months ago, a year ago, she would have texted back immediately. She would have gone home, forgiven everyone, smoothed things over, gone back to being the quiet shadow in her brother's spotlight. But that was 6 months ago. She typed a response to her dad, I'm glad you know now. But I need some time. Please give me that. Then she put the phone face down on the couch cushion. You okay? Sarah asked. I think so. Emily leaned back. You want to know the weirdest part? I always knew something was off about being identical twins. I felt different. I liked different things. I saw the world differently. But everyone told me I was wrong. So I stopped trusting myself. And now? Now I get to start trusting myself again. The sun was starting to set. Through the window, the sky was turning orange and pink, the kind of sunset you'd see on a postcard. Emily watched it for a minute, then reached into her bag. She pulled out her sketchbook, the one she'd been carrying around for 2 years, the one with the half-finished drawing of a bird. It was a small bird, a warbler, with a broken leg. She'd started it last spring after finding the bird in the backyard. Ethan had told her to leave it alone, that it was probably faking its injury to get attention. Even a bird, he'd said, could be dramatic. She'd tried to draw it anyway, but she could never get the leg right. The shape was always wrong, the angle impossible. Now she understood why. She'd been trying to draw a bird that matched her brother's story. A dramatic bird. A lying bird. But that wasn't the real bird. The real bird was hurt. And it was still standing. Emily picked up her pencil. 3 days later, Emily returned to the hospital. Not for herself this time, but for a follow-up appointment with Dr. Patel. Sarah drove her again, and this time she came inside and sat in the waiting room. Her parents were there too. They'd asked if they could come. Emily had said yes, but only if they let her talk first. In the small exam room, Dr. Patel explained the management plan. It was straightforward. A special diet, a few medications, regular checkups. Nothing too dramatic. Just taking care of herself, which she'd never been allowed to do before. When he finished, Mike cleared his throat. "Doctor, I just want to say. We should have brought her here years ago. If we'd listened." Dr. Patel nodded. "The important thing is that you're listening now." Linda reached for Emily's hand. "Can we talk? Just the three of us? No Ethan, no doctors, just us?" Emily looked at her mother's face. She looked older than she had 3 days ago. Tired. Scared. "Okay," Emily said. "Let's talk." They found an empty waiting area near the cafeteria. Not the hallway from before, that hallway was part of the past now. This was a new place. Mike spoke first. "I let you down. I bought into this whole idea of having twin kids, a boy and a girl, 2 of a kind. And when Ethan told me you were just being dramatic, I believed him because I wanted to. It was easier." "I'm not going to argue with that," Emily said. "Because you're right." Linda's voice was small. "I'm a nurse. I should have known better than anyone. But I was so focused on Ethan. He was easy. You needed more. And I didn't want to give more. I was tired. I was wrong." "I know." Emily looked at both of them. "I'm not going to pretend the last 18 years didn't happen. I'm not going to pretend I'm fine. Because I'm not fine. But I'm also not going to spend the rest of my life being angry. I've been angry my whole life. I'm tired of it." "What do you want?" Mike asked. "I want to go to college. Not the one Ethan's going to. A different one. I want to study something I care about. I want to take care of my health. And I want you to be my parents, not his parents." She paused. "Can you do that?" Linda started crying again, but this time it wasn't the ugly, desperate crying from before. It was something closer to relief. "We can try," she said. "We'll do better. I swear." Mike nodded. "Whatever you need. College, doctors, space, anything. Just tell us." Emily stood up. "I'm going to stay with Sarah for a few more days. I need to think. But I'll call you." She walked toward the exit, then stopped and turned around. "One more thing. Ethan needs help. Not punishment. Help. I don't know if I'll ever forgive him, but I don't want him to crash and burn either. He's my brother. Even if we're not identical." She walked out of the hospital for the second time that week. But this time, she wasn't running away. She was walking toward something. That night, back at Sarah's apartment, Emily opened her sketchbook. The warbler was finished now. Its broken leg was bent at the exact angle it needed to be, and its eyes were bright and alive. At the bottom of the page, she'd written one line, "The bird with the broken leg still knows how to fly." She closed the book and looked out the window. The stars were coming out, one by one. The world was still the same world. Her family was still a mess. Her body still had a condition she'd have to manage for the rest of her life. But something had changed. For 18 years, Emily Henderson had been a character in someone else's story. The difficult twin. The dramatic one. The girl who cried wolf. But she wasn't any of those things. She was just Emily. And for the first time, that was enough. She turned off the light and went to sleep. Tomorrow would be the first day of the rest of her life, and for the first time, she was actually looking forward to it.